Well, hi. Today is Thursday, March 20th, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. A lot of folks without power yesterday on both sides of the river. The heaviest was over in Omaha. Council Bluffs not quite as bad, and things could have been worse. Farther to the north, you didn't have to go very far, and snow totals jumped up quite a bit. So I consider on this side of the river a little bit more fortunate than what we were seeing over as you head to the north and west yesterday. Things got a lot worse, and now we've made it to spring, and it's going to feel like it. Things are going to be warming up, and I am ready to get this snow out of here. What do you say? Coming up in just a bit, we're going to talk with Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning and Waldstein Plumbing. He is coming on to talk a little sports because a number of things going on around the state of Iowa. The Iowa men's basketball team is looking for a new head coach. Iowa State and Drake are playing in the men's NCAA tournament. We've got Iowa and Iowa State and Drake all playing in the women's tournament, and the Iowa High School Boys Athletic Association has announced that next year they're going to be leaving Des Moines for the Boys State basketball tournament, and it's going to be played at Hilton Coliseum in Ames. That'll be the first time that the tournament has been in Ames in 100 years. And I think that my personal opinion, it's a good move, but we'll talk with Travis about that and also get some of his other opinions about NIL and things like that. That is all on the way. Wanted to remind you that since 1870, Avela Bank has been providing Iowans with high-quality financial products and services to fit their needs. Whether you need a loan, would like to start a new business account, maybe save some money for a trip, or just looking to open a personal checking account, Avela's qualified bankers can help you with all of that and more. Visit avela.bank to learn more. Also, unlock your potential with the Best Wrestlers wrestling camps. Whether you're looking for an intensive day camp, a focused weekend camp, or the ultimate challenge at the best 20-day camp, they have something for everyone. Day camps are perfect for beginners or those looking to refine their skills. Weekend camps dive a little bit deeper, designed for wrestlers who want a more intensive training and personalized coaching. And then that best 20-day camp is their flagship summer camp, featuring best practices, drawing young athletes from all across the country. Go to thebestwrestler.com to learn more. And Service Master Restore by Schmader knows it can be hard to get back to normal when you've suffered serious property damage due to flooding, fire, or smoke, and you may also be left with all sorts of questions about how to get your home or business back to normal. Service Master Restore by Schmader will restore your space by offering quality commercial and residential restoration services in Council Bluffs and the surrounding area. Their staff is available 24/7, so when you need questions answered or strategies for getting a timely restoration, they're here to help. That's Service Master Restore by Schmader. Back with us, Travis Waldstein, Air Serv Heating and Air Conditioning and Waldstein Plumbing. And it's as we're recording this, we are in the middle of, well, I haven't actually been out in the country. What's the storm been like? I've seen it in town, but I haven't seen it out and about.
You know, I didn't think it's that bad. I mean, I don't know. It's a wet March snowstorm / if it's 10 degrees warmer, it'd be rain. And if it's 10 degrees colder, it'd be a freaking terrible because there'd be about
Right.
3 inches of ice. It's just kind of at that point to where if it goes down to about 27 degrees tonight, it might be kind of interesting with the winds. But I've been to Underwood. I've been off of Pioneer Trail and drive around town. It's really not that bad. And it's, I don't know. It's winter. It's winter in the Midwest. I mean,
Yeah.
It's precipitation. So I'm not complaining. We need rain, snow.
Right.
Bring it. So
well, and you don't have to go very far north, and it's a different story. I mean, there's a lot more snow, just not far north of us, but still, like you said, it's like winter's last gasp, and then things are going to settle down a little bit, and I even saw 70s again in the extended forecast. So
yeah, well, yesterday it's 73 degrees. I'm unloading trucks for a project we got, and last night I had my sweatshirt on by 1 o'clock. I was dying because holy cow! Like turn on the AC, my Bobcat has AC in it, but it doesn't have any Freon in the compressor, so it's like, I ride the fresh air, and it's like. At 1 o'clock, I was cooking pretty good. It's like, ooh, but no, spring's coming. I'm actually pretty excited about where with stuff. I mean, this winter, this economy, this the bad news, hanging on. But I got to believe if we can get a few days of 60s and people get out and about and get excited about doing some stuff, I think you'll start to see things spring up. But if all you do is sit inside and watch the news all day, well, you know how that goes. So,
Well, I do. And the news that I've been paying attention to is really more on the sports end of it with obviously, Fran getting fired that wasn't a surprise at the
no,
University of Iowa.
no,
Everybody figured it was coming. He went out with a bang by getting thrown out of the game.
yeah,
And then the search started, and the buzz around everybody talking about was Darian DeVries coming back home. But University of Indiana had other ideas, and they just kind of said, okay, well, we're going to throw every dime we have at this thing, and, let's see what anybody else says. So and I don't blame him for taking that job. I mean, they laid it all out there for him perfectly.
yeah. Well, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant here with Iowa fans. And I'm an Iowa fan. I'm a season ticket holder. I also am a member of the Swarm. And, I've heard a lot of stuff about money. And at college, there's a contingent of Iowa fans. I don't care if you're Iowa State, whatever. I buy season tickets. You pay the seat fee, whatever. You can join the I Club, which is great. But guess what? The I Club does not contribute to the NIL. And anybody that knows what NIL is, this name, image, and likeness.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, listen, you can blame Jordan Bohannon for a lot of this because he's the one to raise stink about 4 years ago about college players getting played. That kind of opened Pandora's box, and now here we are 4 years later because Iowa, either can't or won't, play in today's realm. They'd rather sit back and wait. And so the guy that's been, whose brother was a defensive lineman in the 90s, said when he was at Creighton Drake, that Iowa or Creighton was his dream job, ends up in Indiana. Well, guess what, folks? If you're not going to put your money where your mouth is, then don't bitch to me when you don't get the guy you want. Sorry. And I am tired of that. Well, I contribute. I said, and listen, I get it. Not everybody's got the money to contribute. People have a problem with it, but guess what? It's not like it was 20 years ago. So, and if you're in Iowa or Iowa State or Nebraska or anybody else fan, his Division I college football, basketball, wrestling, if you're an Iowa fan, and probably Nebraska to an extent too, is become, listen, money talks and BS walks. And, when you're Darren DeVries and you're going to get guaranteed $7 million a year and you're going to have $7 million of guaranteed money to play players to come to a university who is a basketball crazy school, guess what? That's a lot of change in today's NIL and college basketball. If you're Iowa, they weren't paying Fran that. Fran didn't want to participate in the NIL. He really didn't. Iowa's total NIL package was $1.3 billion. But he didn't want to participate because he just didn't believe that was the way to do it. Well, and when he go to his recruiting stops, there's been talks about that. He didn't want to talk to alumni and donors. Well, guess what? If you don't do that, you don't raise money. Well, and frankly, the product, let's be frank, but the women's team has been a heck of a lot more fun to watch the last 4 years than the men's team's ever thought about being.
Yeah, so, and even continued on this year, even without Caitlin Clark there. The fans still showed up, and they were still selling games out.
Yeah. So as Iowa fans, and I don't care as A school because Iowa State's running into it. I've got a family that's got Iowa State tickets and whatnot. Nebraska's got the 1890. Listen, Trev Alberts left Lincoln, Nebraska. He's the favorite son, or as I call him, Trader Trev, and went to Texas A&M because he had 20 billionaires at Texas A&M that knew that if he couldn't get so much money for NIL, he could go talk to the next billionaire and get it for him. So unfortunately, it has become a pay for play type of system. And you're not putting that back in the Pandora's box. So if you're not willing to contribute, and listen, if you can't, it's fine. I get it. But if you can, but then choose not to, then don't bitch about it. It's kind of like voting. I don't care if you bitch about it, but if you don't vote, then don't come bitch to me about it. That's how I feel about it. I hate to be that way, but if you're a fan and you want your teams to do better, you're going to contribute, the time and the effort to go to Kinnick or go to Carver Hawkeye to watch basketball or wrestling, or go to Iowa State. Iowa State's got the, Jack Trice, and they've got their whole Hilt Coliseum deal. Guess what? Look at Iowa State. Iowa State's NIL right now for basketball would put Iowa's to shame. Who thought about that? Iowa State's a school of a bunch of engineers and farmers. Nothing against engineers and farmers, but they're not billionaires either. But guess what? Look at Iowa State's program. Look at Iowa's program.
Yeah, that Iowa State comes out, and I would say that Iowa State fans are incredibly passionate, and they support their team very well. So I believe exactly what it is that you're saying, that they came out and wanted to make that happen. And there's a ton of pride at Iowa State. And, when you talk about the Iowa high school boys basketball tournament moving to Hilton Coliseum in a couple of years, they're excited about that. And I think the high schools are excited about it too, because look, you and I are both Iowa fans, but there's something about Hilton. It's just it's got that. I don't know. They've talked about the Hilton magic for decades, and and I think that the kids are really going to like to play there. So
I wish what they do is they would take a couple years, play at Hilton, and then play over at Iowa City at Carver. I think that'd be great. I mean, technically, you got 4 Division I schools in the state.
Yeah.
I mean, we go play the football semifinals and finals at UNI. Why could UNI's got enough seats up there if you wanted to do the semifinals or do the basketball tournament in UNI. I don't know if Drake can do the Knapp Center. I don't think it's big enough, but you could do Wells Fargo. Why not rotate around a little bit? Let each one of the 4 universities get in on the action. Oh, that's right. The Iowa and Iowa State don't want to play UNI and Drake, so they wouldn't want to share in that part either, because which is crazy. So but no, I think that'd be great. Get an opportunity. Yeah, if you're a high school kid and you get to go play at a semifinals or finals in Ames or in Iowa City, it's like going and playing a state. In Nebraska, we play in the Unidome in Iowa because we have a dome, which I get it. But in Nebraska, they go down to Lincoln, they play outside in the cold in the semifinals and finals. So, I mean. Is it all bad? I mean, football's played in the cold. I mean, face it, if you're in November and let's say you're Lewis Central and you're playing Pella, or you're playing Xavier, or you're playing, and Valley or Dowling are going to play, would it be cool to have that game either at Jack Trice or at Kinnick, for the state finals in the elements? I mean, the 2 biggest stages in the state. Nothing against the Unidome. I mean, my kids have played there. It's a great venue, but I think it'd be great for the kids to have that opportunity. But we are tied to Iowa High School Athletic Association, who it took 2 years to finally figure out that we have Iowa PBS. And we're finally going to get the football, wrestling, and basketball state championships finally on PBS instead of IHSSN or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know what happened with that. I mean, I've had a little bit of time with the Iowa High School Sports Network. I did some baseball for them a few years ago, and but so I'm not sure what fell apart there. I know that there was a lot of jockeying going around, and the network was trying to do something that the association was not at all happy with, and judges and lawyers were involved. So that probably played into it. Yeah.
I think what it came down to is the money that they were making, they were charging. The problem is IHSSN wasn't passing any of that to the Athletic Association. They were keeping it in their coffers. And of course, the Iowa High School Athletic Association probably wanted to have that piece of the pie. And here's the other part of it is, for a few years, they had on CSN Chicago, I mean, so unless you had, if you had cable and watch it, and then they would have it like over here, they'd have it on Fox 42 or WB or
right.
Where is, so if and listen, nothing against Nebraska playoff system, but I live in Iowa. And if I want to watch, Lewis Central or Glenwood or heaven forbid Harlan, play, or Spencer, play, I mean, it's a state event. The public PBS is a great venue for it. They've done a great job with wrestling, and it gets across the entire state. I'm glad they finally done it. I hope with the semifinal, I hope they do what IHSSN is, the semifinals and the finals for football. I'm not sure the details of the contract because that's what they have done. Because once you get to the Dome, all them games are pretty cool to see. So I'm hoping that's part of the football package. It'll be interesting, but I think that's great for high school sports and for the state of Iowa to showcase the players so everybody in the state can get an opportunity to see it.
Well, and eventually, you and I have talked about it before, but not on this program, that I still do not understand why it hasn't been put together that you don't get the Iowa High School State Baseball Tournament to Dyersville.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense to me that you have a place called the Field of Dreams, and it is nationally and internationally known, and they have multiple diamonds there now.
Hey, Brantley Gilbert and Nickelback are going to play in Field of Dreams this year. So there you go. But yeah, you know, when it comes to baseball in the state of Iowa, and I've got some friends, I've got no coaches from Lewis Central and other places that have played baseball. The biggest problem with baseball in the state of Iowa, which part of me is a purist thinks it's right, that they play baseball in the summertime. Mm-hmm. It is a summertime sport. The problem is every other state in the country is playing baseball as a spring sport, and then you have Legion ball as your summer sport.
Right.
So really in Iowa, you don't have a spring Legion league that plays. If you go to Nebraska, if you go up in the Minnesota, Illinois, Missouri, baseball season for the high schools is done in May, and then these kids are going to go play for Legion ball and do their travel ball and showcase in the summertime. I know of at least 3 examples right now of kids that should be playing in whether it be LC or St. Albans AL, playing in Iowa, but they're playing in Nebraska because if they want to get exposed, they got a lot better chance getting seen on the club circuit or the Legion circuit in the summertime versus, the high school circuit. And, the purist to me says it's great, but just the reality, it's no different than college baseball. College baseball, by the time they have the final opening date, it's May 6th here in the Midwest, because we have to play the College World Series in the second week of June. If you played a College World Series the second week of July, you'd have another month of baseball, and you'd have more chances, I think, of northern teams doing well. But the NCAA, and its infinite wisdom, doesn't want to do that because of ESPN. So,
right.
But no, that's the thing with baseball. Baseball should be one that's also, I agree with you. I think baseball should be a part of that as well. And they're playing in Carroll. They've played Iowa City at Dwayne Banks, which I think are great venues. Principal Park or I've always known Sec Taylor, but Principal Park in Des Moines is a good place. I do agree with Dyersville. The thing that sucks about Dyersville is if you're in Council Bluffs or Glenwood or Hamburg, it's a long ways across the state to Dyersville.
It is, but it's still Dyersville.
It is.
And I think that, I'll spend an extra hour and a half in a car over, going to Iowa City, or they used to play the 4A and 2As in Marshalltown once upon a time, which I broadcast from Marshalltown. I broadcast from Carroll. Those are the 2 that I'd done, and I liked Carroll better.
Carroll's a great stadium setup. It really is.
Well, the way that it was explained to me, somebody there, this is hearsay, but somebody that was there from Carroll said that stadium was originally financed back in the 50s, I think it was, with illegal pull tab gambling tickets. And that's how they raised the money to build the stadium. And now Carroll Kemper calls it home. So
that's the most Fort Dodge thing I've ever heard, but it's in Carroll.
Well, let's talk about this Iowa men's basketball coaching search right now. So Darian DeVries is off the table, and he would have been the odds-on fan favorite. And now, you're looking at Ben McCollum, who came up from Northwest Missouri State to take over for Drake when DeVries left. And first off, I think we need to figure out who is in the coaching search at Drake and hire them at Iowa, because they're obviously really good at their jobs.
Yes. Very, very good. That came up yesterday, that the last 2 hires he's made is really good. And that's the thing. If there's an athletic director's position open and you take a look what he's done at Drake, at some point, that he's going to probably get a move up opportunity to move up, because you look at Drake, they just hired Grandview's football coach. They just won the national title, and they hired him from Grandview, and he's now coaching at Drake. And I mean, Drake is a non-scholarship, school for football, but they've, played in the 1AA football playoffs here, 2 of the last 3 years. So, I mean, yeah, everybody thinks of Drake, but yeah, the athletic director, no doubt about it, is really good at what he does. So.
Well, the thing is, though, is that if you like offense and you like a wide open style of play in basketball, Ben McCollum is not your guy.
No, not right now. No,
that's a very defensive minded team, and really likes to throw people out of their rhythm. And kind of reminds me of Princeton once upon a time, like back in the 90s when they were, nobody could figure them out, and it was really difficult to play. But we'll see what they do. I mean, they got Missouri in the first round, and Missouri has just played tougher competition. So, we'll see what happens with that. But
yeah, well, this kind of goes back to my point when it comes to the coaches. I do like as far as the coach, I do like Ben McCollum. I think there's other people out there. Name I heard today was Ryan Bowen. I guess he's coaching for the Nets as an assistant. Of course, he's got Iowa ties. I've heard Chris Collins.
Yeah, I heard about
Northwestern.
But I don't know about. Because he's been there. That's Northwestern, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been there for 12 years, and he's made the tournament 3 times. So, but then again, it is Northwestern. So.
Well, the problem is you made the argument that Northwestern, Iowa, Northwestern are about the same level as basketball right now, unfortunately, which is still ahead of Nebraska, but not by much. Sorry, Nebraska fans, but Iowa has to decide if they're going to be. If they want to be a bottom seller, if they want to be like Purdue in football and be good for 1 year and then be terrible for 5. I don't know. If someone's talking about this in 1989, this is going back 30 years. Iowa signed the biggest TV contract at that time for college basketball with Raycom. And Iowa was the sponsor because of the rabid fan base and the support and where Iowa basketball was at from when Lute Olson came and George Ravel and then what Tom Davis did, with that team in the early years. And if you take a look since Tom Davis was forced out of Iowa City, you've had Alford, we've had Licklider, we've had Fran, and Iowa basketball has just gotten to be, it's a shamble. And, and for me, like I said, I'm an Iowa fan. I love the Hawkeyes. I do. I follow them as close as I can. But it's not impossible for me to watch basketball. Right? I am one of the fans. The apathy for the men's basketball team, it's just something needs to change. I know they've talked about moving the student section. They've talked about remodeling Carver, but I think they also have to have commitment. There has to be resources committed to the program. And Kirk, this came a thing. Kirk had realized that you have to spend money. Look at what they've done in the transfer portal. I'm sure if you asked Kirk if he had issues, he'd rather not. But they've also understood that you got to go spend money in the transfer portal to be competitive, and you're going to have to pay players to be competitive, And with women's basketball, as popular as it's been, they've had to do it. Wrestling has got its own NIL collective, that they deal with. We could spend our time about the wrestling team, but we're not going to go there today. But men's basketball, Fran didn't want to do it, and Gary Barta did not want to be a part of it. So now I was going to have to play catch up in this realm, and what they're going to need is someone to go out and talk to boosters and shake hands and say, and get people to contribute. The money's here in Iowa. The University of Iowa alumni base has got money, but you got to get people to want to spend money to see Iowa hoops. And unfortunately, that's the name of the game. And that's I read so much stuff. It's like, that's why I said, if you're not willing to contribute, then don't complain to me about it, because unfortunately, until you change your mindset, it's no different than owning a business or buying a car. If you have a car that's broken, you're not willing to spend $300 about, but you bitch me about not getting to work. Guess what? I might take you to spend the $300, get your car fixed, so you show up to go to work. That's kind of how life is. Either you do or you don't. If you choose not to, then don't cry to me when you have a problem. So.
Well, so far, and she's still very early. I've been impressed with Beth Getz as the AD. I think that when she's had to make hard decisions, she just does it and doesn't apologize for it. And I respect that a lot. This is probably her biggest test since she's gotten the job. Is going to be this search. I'd heard Chris Jan's name thrown around, Mississippi State coach that is originally from Iowa, graduated college, graduated high school and college. He went to Loras, and he's had some success at Mississippi State. So, there's names out there, but it is still, it's still kind of a crapshoot. And how do you get somebody to come to a university to play with, as you said, if you're not throwing an overabundance of money at them, then it has to be about the tradition and the atmosphere they're playing in. And right now, the men's program doesn't have much to stand on.
Here's the other part too that I think people forget. You think about from a business perspective. Darren DeVries, and there's people who are mad. I don't think he was the best candidate for it. He's the biggest name, but I don't necessarily think he's the best candidate for the job. So you got to take a look at it. So this came up in conversation that right after the season, once West Virginia decided they weren't making a tournament, Indiana and Iowa had reached out to him, and then he went and talked to West Virginia. West Virginia just spent a huge buyout and spent a whole bunch of money to bring him in to sign him to a long-term contract. 3 to 5 years, and resources and whatnot. And West Virginia's in the Big 12. It's a good conference. And I think West Virginia, could be I don't know if they'll ever be a great basketball program, but they're kind of like Iowa. I think they'd be good. But they made that investment and commitment. And all of a sudden, Iowa and Indiana start calling and you start taking phone calls. And it's like, and I understand needing to listen to offers, but it sounded like to me he was chasing the money, and I mean, and Indiana's putting a lot of resources out there. But you know what? It's like being a football coach in Nebraska, Indiana basketball. If you don't win in 2 years, they're going to want to fire you. I mean, it's like Nebraska football. If you don't get to 8, 9, 10 wins in a 2 to 3 year period, they're going to want to fire you because their expectation or their mind says you need to be up here. So, he's got to get paid for it, and I mean, Nebraska's been through 4 or 5 coaches where they've paid for it and haven't gotten results. So, and he had 1 year at West Virginia, where they were okay. They thought they were going to make the tournament. They didn't make the NCAA tournament. I think he would have been a safe bet for Iowa, but I'm not sure he takes Iowa to ultimately where they want to go. And I think he had to work pretty hard at Iowa, probably as far as funding resources or whatnot. And I think he saw that in Indiana has already committed to doing X, Y, and Z, probably a whole lot easier. So I don't blame him, but, they better win. And so, they take someone like a Ben McCollum. If you've heard him on TV or I don't know, whoever takes the position, I don't care if it's Billy Joel, no, we don't want Billy Joel as a basketball coach, but you know what I'm saying? If he come in and he can, if he or she has a history of success and, they can go, they can go talk to recruits and go talk to fans. I mean, hell, bring in Lisa Bluter as his top assistant for a year in the men's basketball team if it's a nobody.
That's not a bad idea. I've not thought of.
Yeah.
That's actually a good idea.
Give somebody who coaches some credibility. It says, hey, you know what? I've been the women's coach for 20 years, but I'm here to support the men's basketball team for a year. And you know what? And let her be the top assistant on the basketball team. Let her be the kind of the unofficial spokesman for the team. It sounds crazy, but why not? I mean, there are women assistant coaches in the NBA. I mean, you haven't seen a lot of it in college, but it's why not?
I think what that would do is just from a recruiting standpoint, that's going to get you in a lot of doors and sitting in a lot of living rooms that you wouldn't have been in otherwise.
Oh, absolutely.
So that now would Coach Bluter want anything to do with it? I don't know, but that would be really interesting. And not only that, it would get the entire country talking about Iowa basketball.
Oh, are you kidding me? Absolutely, yeah. It would. Absolutely, it would. That would definitely be a talking point. And that's what I said. They've got, but it involves someone thinking out of the box and take a little bit of risk. But where I was at, as far as a basketball school, why not? I mean, what are they going to lose? I mean, that there isn't, there's not. I mean, they were 15 and 16, 16 and 16 this year. I mean, they weren't total, but I'm going to tell you, they got to do something, and they're going to have to go into the portal. I mean, half the team is leaving because Fran's leaving, and that's going to happen. But turn it around. If they can get someone to turn around within 2 years, because I think you can do it in basketball. And get somebody to get some level footing on here. Lisa Bluter is a ambassador for University of Iowa. I think it could be a win-win if she's willing to do it, but maybe she's an unofficial. Maybe she's involved. I wouldn't be totally surprised if she's involved with the search committee with Beth Getz as far as hearing, because listen, she knows basketball, and maybe that's someone, and maybe she, who knows what the conversation, but maybe Lisa Bluter said, hey, let's start this off for, if he takes it, great. If not, we think we got better coaches that may be available. And that's okay. I mean, Darren Vries is a great name, but, I think McCollum's a heck of a lot better X's and O's guy. Can he raise money? We'll find out. But he's got deep Iowa ties, so I think I think he'd be a name that Iowa fans by originally go, It's kind of like Kirk Ferentz in 1999. You're kind of But if you'd asked me in 1999 if Kirk Ferentz would have been here, Steve Alford, I'd have put my money on Steve Alford, and we all would have been wrong. So be careful what you wish for.
All righty, sir. We haven't solved any of the world's problems, but we pointed out some more of them. So
well, and I got a chance to make fun of Nebraska fans, so it's all good.
that was about the weakest make fun of Nebraska fans you've done since of all the times we've recorded and everything else that we've done. Yeah, you didn't come at them very hard today.
No, I mean, it's just a true statement. But let's talk about that. Fred Hoiberg. Fred's getting another year. I mean, look how bad they did down the stretch, but he's going to get another year. So, but I think he's got to make the tournament next year. If he doesn't, I think they'll make a change. But who knows? Yeah,
it's I figured that Nebraska would be in a much better position by now than they were under Hoiberg. Because I was actually at the first game that he coached for Nebraska. A buddy of mine went to school at Iowa State, wanted to go to the game, so we went, and they lost, but still, there was, he walked out on the court and the crowd went crazy. So,
it is what it is. So something in the water, I guess. I don't know.
All right, sir. Well, you stay warm as we're recording this, and we're still in the middle of the storm, but spring is on the way, and next thing you know, you're going to be getting calls to get new air conditioners put in.
Yes, we are.
So what do you think? Is that move for the boys state basketball tournament in Iowa to Ames to play at Hilton Coliseum a good move? As I mentioned, yeah, I think it is. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of the games there. And also, as Travis was talking about, those finals for football and basketball, and now going to be on public television. So I think that is going to be an improvement too. So a lot of positive things happening in the high school sports area around the state of Iowa. That's wrapping things up for this Thursday. Thank you so much. And we've got a busy week on tap next week. We'll tell you all about it in the coming days. But until then, my name's Todd Studer. Have a great Thursday.